Thank you for joining Comforcare and At Your Side Home Care for this informative Dementia Wise webinar, Surprising Hearing and Vision Issues Experienced when Dementia is Present. Please let me welcome our host, Director of Special Populations, Dr. Deborah Beer.
So glad you could join us. Today we'll talk about why dementia impacts the senses, how vision and hearing are affected by dementia, how these changes worsen function and increase difficult behavior, adjustments that can be made to improve functioning and decrease the difficult behavior, and then additional resources in your local community. This webinar is for educational purposes only. The information provided is not intended to be diagnostic or serve as a substitute for actual medical advice. If you have concerns about your or your loved one's health or diagnosis, please seek help from a licensed medical professional. I want to make a distinction between the terms Alzheimer's and dementia because they're so often confused. Dementia is a group of symptoms involving cognitive impairment, and there are many types of dementia. Alzheimer's is one of those types. It's the most frequently diagnosed. All Alzheimer's is dementia, but not all dementia is Alzheimer's. Let's look at why dementia impacts the senses. Now, the fact that dementia does impact the senses is really a surprise for many people because we think of dementia commonly as a memory disease, but it actually impacts so much more than memory in many areas of the brain. It impacts all of the senses, but it's not the same as disease of the senses, such as glaucoma for the eye or hearing loss for the ear. This has to do with the way the brain processes the information from the senses. That's what's impacted by dementia. Now, human beings are sensory animals. We need sensory stimulation to operate correctly in the world, and we need input to our brains from our senses to be healthy. The more damage the brain becomes due to the dementia, the less sensory input that the brain can handle. Let's look at how vision and hearing are affected by dementia. Let's first look at vision. There are some really profound changes that go on in visual processing due to dementia. We're going to go over each of them. The first is a loss of depth perception. People have trouble judging how far they are from an object. For example, this comes into play when someone is trying to sit down on a chair behind them and they can't figure out really how far they are from the object and they miss the chair and fall, and that can be a serious injury. They also have trouble understanding whether or not an object is part of a surface or a separate object. For example, is that a pattern in the rug or something that you need to walk around or step over? Next loss has to do with peripheral vision, and this is really important. It has a lot of implications to how we care for people with dementia. People by mid-Alzheimer's disease have about a 12-inch field of vision. They've lost everything on the sides and on the top and bottom. Now, this is something that makes a lot of difference in how we interact with people with dementia, but it's very rarely known or talked about, and now you know the secret. We need to know what right in front of them really means when we want to make them more independent by placing things where they can see them easily. We need to know that it's just a 12-inch field of vision. The next thing we have to think about is their need for high color contrast. In order to pick out one object from another, they need to be of different colors and strongly different colors. For example, white plate with white food on a white tablecloth with clear glasses would be very hard for them to figure out where the objects are or even that there are objects on the table. We need strong color contrast, a white plate and a dark blue background on the table or a tablecloth, a cup that has a strong color that's different from the liquid that's in it would really help them be more independent for longer. They have a need for stronger lighting, brighter lighting, 2 to 3 times more normal household lighting. They also have a need for visual simplicity. Too many objects, too much mess, too much clutter actually makes it very difficult for them to function. Now, I know it's very difficult with elders to get them to clean up or to have them let you clean up for them. And they have too many objects around, but this actually is something that's working against their ability to function. Let's look at the sensory processing changes around hearing. People with dementia can become overstimulated by noise. They can become confused and agitated, overly emotional in a noisy environment. Using TV as a background, while it may be normal for them earlier in their lives, can actually work against their ability to function. It becomes the noise of the TV becomes blended in with other noises and becomes very hard for them to understand what's going on, and you end up with difficult dementia behavior. It's important to avoid having more than one person speak at a time because it really will hamper the ability of the person with dementia to understand what's being said. It'd be very frustrating for them. And we want to keep them away from crowded or noisy places which might overstimulate them. Let's look at how these changes worsen functioning and increase difficult dementia behavior. There's a lot of different ways to understand the differences between one person with dementia and another. And one way of looking at it is whether or not they're stimulation seeking or stimulation avoiding. Some people will derive a great deal of pleasure and enjoyment with looking for more stimulation, and these people are stimulation seekers, and they tend to be understimulated. There are other people who tend to avoid stimulation. They like it quiet and dark and calm. These are avoiders, stimulation avoiders, and they are often generally overstimulated already, and they don't tolerate more stimulation. And the way that we can tell the difference is by their behavior. If you're seeing difficult behavior, then they're telling you something that's important. Difficult behavior should be seen as a form of communication from someone with dementia who might be having trouble using language. It is up to us to understand what it is they're trying to communicate. And one of the things they might be communicating is, I have too much or not enough sensory stimulation. Let's look at adjustments we can make that can improve the functioning of someone with dementia and decrease their difficult behavior. Let's first focus on the visual changes. Let's make sure that when we say we've put something right in front of someone, that we know what right in front of them means. Otherwise, you get arguments that sound something like this. I want my dinner. I put it right in front of you. You did not. Well, I did. I can see it right now. Well, I don't see it. Those kind of arguments make a lot of sense when you realize that you're both able to see completely different visual fields. You also want to use high color contrast for that dinner that they now can see. That will also help them to see that by having a different color table and tableware and food. Want to make sure that we're increasing the light in their normal living area, 2 to 3 times normal light. And I would put some of those lights on a motion detector so that they don't have to remember to turn on a light to have safe passage on stairs or a hallway where we see a lot of falls. And you should really remain calm when you see strange behavior that might have to do with these visual changes. For example, if they're trying to pick up objects on a rug and there's nothing on the rug, what they're trying to do maybe is pick up the pattern on the rug or pick off pieces of the pattern on clothing or some other printed material. This is for them a normal exploration, and you shouldn't get disturbed by this bizarre behavior. And when possible, clear clutter and mess, at least in your working area or wherever you're doing a project or eating a meal with someone with dementia. I think sometimes putting up a portable table just for the duration of whatever you're doing and then taking it down immediately thereafter so it doesn't become another place for stuff to accumulate can be a good strategy when the person won't allow you to clear their clutter. For hearing changes, we do want to avoid noisy environments. Sometimes a very small amount of noise can be annoying to someone with dementia. Make sure only one person at a time is speaking so the person with dementia will have a better chance of understanding you. And add gestures and touch to help clarify your requests. If you're asking for someone, if they're cold, you can mime cold. even when they don't understand the language anymore, they will understand your gestures for longer. And make sure those gestures are meaningful. Make sure when you nod your head, you really do mean yes, and that when you shake it, you really do mean no. Also, make sure that person with dementia is looking right at you. Make eye contact to make sure that you've got their attention. I want to talk about another aspect of sound because it's very important with dementia, and that's music. Music is absolutely magical in a person's life, in all of our lives, and with dementia, it's particularly powerful. Despite their sensory changes, they still can understand and enjoy music and rhythm until the very end of their lives. So it's very important, if you have an opportunity, to play their favorite music from some time in the past to improve their moods and prevent difficult behavior. And even when they lose the ability to speak or to understand speech, many times they will remember the lyrics to old familiar songs and sing them completely correctly, even though they haven't spoken for months. Let's look at some additional resources in your local community. Are you a family member with someone with dementia or a healthcare professional working with dementia clients, patients, caregivers, or families? Our offices can assist with strategies and solutions for your dementia care challenges. Contact your local Comforcare or At Your Side home care office for more information about our services. And if you'd like to learn more about Dimentia Wise or dementia care best practices, there are many other features to Dimentia Wise than we've discussed tonight. Look for Dimentia Wise presentations and family caregiver support groups in your area for more information, and sign up to receive free information about dementia care and other topics at comforcare.com and atyoursidehomecare.com. Thank you so much for joining us.